Welcome to the Coast Podcast. I'm Emily, a virtual assistant agency owner who left Amazon in 2019 to build my dream.
And I'm Whitney, a freelance writer and communications consultant who never felt at home in a cube farm.
We didn't see many people paving their own ways like we decided to, so we created this podcast to talk to others who were brave enough to pick a different path. Creatives, entrepreneurs, people doing their careers and their lives their way.
Join us as we learn from them, get inspired, and show you beautiful paths less traveled.
Not every road leads to the coast, but the ones that do come with a great view.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coast. My name is Whitney Popa, and I own a communications consultancy in Edmonds, Washington.
My name is Emily Given, and I own a virtual assistant agency in Lynnwood, Washington. Today, we have the pleasure of interviewing Andrea Heuston, who is the CEO of Artitudes and three-time best-selling author and podcast host of the Lead Like a Woman show. Thank you so much for being here today, Andrea.
Well, thank you, Emily and Whitney. I'm really excited to be here.
So, Andrea and I originally met, I'm saying that with air quotes, because we haven't actually met in a real life scenario and or online. As her business operations manager, Carrie, and I worked together when Andrea was our client. She was our client for about a year last year. So that was how we met originally and got connected. And I learned more about her work and bought her book and just really, I bought your book and we're just really excited to, get to know you better in this conversation. And I feel like you have a lot to share with our audience, which is mainly entrepreneurs and prospective entrepreneurs. So, Andrea, tell us about not only Artitudes, but what you're doing with Lead Like a Woman and who you are.
Who I am. Oh, that's a really loaded question, and it's changed over the years. But I am the CEO of Artitudes. We were founded 28 years ago in 1995 as a communications consultancy firm, working with speakers to help them get their message across with impact and action. And really what that means is we coach speakers, we write content. I'm also considered a script whisperer, which is really a fabulous thing to do. And then we also do all the visuals surrounding that client to help them reach their audience. So we're not talking like bullet points on a slide. We're really talking about impactful visuals and fewer words. And then I am also the podcast host of the Lead Like a Woman show, where I feature female entrepreneurs who are changing the world through empowering others. And we're on episode 150, and it's so exciting, and I'm having so much fun with it. We currently have 40,000 plus followers, and I'm always looking for more. And then I've written 3 books. Which book do you have, Emily?
I have Lead Like a Woman.
Woohoo! So the second in that series came out earlier this year. And then my very first book is called Stronger on the Other Side. So yeah, the next book will come out probably around November, December. And it's another Lead Like a Woman in the same series.
I just thought it was really cool. I was talking to Whitney about it this morning, that Lead Like a Woman is you're interviewing different women or they're writing about their experiences too. So it's like a compilation of really successful women, and not just their success stories, but how they learned from things that were tough, pieces and periods and times in their life that were tough, and how they overcame that. And I think that's really unique and special, rather than to just hear about the glitz and the glamour. You hear about the hard part too.
And there's a lot of hard parts. So the first book is Lead Like a Woman, Tales from the Trenches. And it's really how we as female entrepreneurs and leaders got through the hard stuff to get to the point where we could lead. Now, there's always going to be those ditches and trenches and even deeper than that. But it's really about creating that value for others through storytelling. And the second book is called Lead Like a Woman, Audacious. And it's about our audacious acts that really, or it's audacity that really got us to where we are because we were brave enough to follow our heart and our instincts.
I love all of that. And it also is a smart marketing tactic too, because I would imagine it's to the benefit of everybody included to be singing about this book as well.
Oh yeah, it's a multi-author book. And so this second one went crazy when it went up for sale because everybody did this huge social marketing push. We had book clubs buying it for the entire book club. It was just a lot of fun to see where it was going. And so I think the next one will be the same way.
I do that. And you're not only just like highlighting your story and your journey, but you're amplifying other voices. And I think that's so powerful. That's the biggest thing we as women can do to lift each other up is empower each other and amplify each other. And that's you're walking the walk.
I love that because that's what I believe now I was put on earth to do. So I have what's it called? A purpose and values and a mission statement. But really, my purpose in life is I create a ripple effect of positivity, connection, and growth so that others may shine. So it really has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with everybody else.
Snaps for that.
I love it.
So okay, so in our podcast, we kind of follow format like we talk to women about what they're doing now, but we kind of like to uncover what you did before you were an entrepreneur. Like we really want to highlight that some people start as entrepreneurs and some people start in corporate and you can do your own thing. And so what did you do before Artitudes?
God, that was so long ago. I barely remember since I started the company 28 years ago now. But I actually started in my career when I was 17. I was an intern at a very, very dry electrical energy management system engineering firm. So I was an intern as a technical illustrator, and they offered me a job at the end of my internship. And because I had been an exchange student in Europe, and I was one of those people who worked a lot ahead, I was the teacher's pet type most of my life. And I had only one class at the high school I needed. So I took a 7:30 a.m. class, and then I worked a full-time job, and then I went to the local community college at night. Now, I worked that job for 8 years, and then the company was purchased by a French firm, and I laid off my entire department because I was running the creative services department at the time, and they asked me to lay everybody off, and the next day I came in and they laid me off, and I hadn't seen it coming. I'm not at all, because I was 24 years old when it happened.
That's so traumatic.
It was, but you know what? They called me back 2 days later and they said, "Oh, we made a mistake. We need you to come back with one of your team members so that you can roll out a brand change." And I said, "I'll call you back tomorrow." And I drove myself down to the state capitol and got a business license because there was no online back then. And that was how I started. So before my career as an entrepreneur, I feel like it's a very short time now because it was 7 years as a technical illustrator, graphic designer, and then I became the head of that department. But when all those people were laid off, they laid off the entire learning team as well. Most of them went to Microsoft, and my business just went boom, it exploded.
That's a crazy story. Like and it's so relevant to right now as well.
It
like
is.
right now is Whitney and I are really trying to, we both coach freelancers and we're really trying to just make this point. Like you thought owning your own business was unstable. Look at the job market right now. Like look at the tech industry. Like we need to help people be prepared to have a plan B, like do their own thing. Like we're super passionate about it. And it's so interesting that like history repeats itself, right? Like the layoffs and like the economy struggles. And I think we have that's a really cool story. And it's really like, we always talk about our why, and that was your why, right? Like had to do your own thing and be prepared to do something different. So it's a really cool story.
Thanks. I never wanted anyone to have my destiny in their hands again. So that really was my motivating factor, was I needed to own my own plan and own my own destiny. And being laid off is not fun. It really isn't. And being fired isn't fun. And a lot of people say they're the same thing. And it is right now happening again, like you said. And so it's a really good time to start something. It's a good time to be a freelancer. It's a good time to own your own destiny.
Mm-hmm. Did you have anybody at the time? Like, did that feel really brave to you, or did it feel like the only decision, or both? Like, because a lot of the reason that we started this podcast is we didn't see a ton of people like us out in the world. And ever since then, we've met and experienced so many through just kind of manifesting it and putting that intention out there. But it seems like, I can't imagine doing that back then. It just seems so much harder, like driving down to get the business license and all of that. And if you didn't have many models of it, aside from I worked at a company and somebody obviously started this, then what was that like for you, in if seeing anybody like you, or having the balls to go out and do it, or the ovaries, I guess.
I like the ovaries better. I had a client tell me once that I had bitch balls. I don't know if that was a compliment or not. So, it was scary because I knew nobody who did that. Nobody at all. It was my own, I don't know what you want to call it, but it really was my own courage and bravery that did it. Now, I was married at the time. I still am, to the same guy. But it was brave in that I was also the breadwinner in the family. I was the one who was bringing home the bacon, per se. And so I had to figure out quickly a way to make it work, because we had just bought a house. So what was I going to do to make it work? And it did. I was lucky in that I had all these contacts I had created that went to that little tiny software company in Redmond at the time and brought me with.
I mean, were you lucky or were you resourceful? Like, maybe both.
I'll go with resourceful then. Thanks, Emily. You use the contacts you have. That's what
Exactly.
networking is about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or predestined. I mean,
Right.
I don't really believe in luck in that sense. I believe in that you put out the intention and that you're on like a soul journey and everything happens as it's meant to, and less about luck and more about like I wonder if you had a little bit of an intention in your mind of like, this is what I want to see for my career path, or the thought of wouldn't it be cool one day to own my own shop. And even if that's wasn't in your brain, like just what is meant for you found you even through the muck that you had to wade through to get there.
So I kind of like that. I actually believe that luck is a combination of really a lot of hard work and looking at opportunities and grabbing them when you can. So luck isn't just like a lightning bolt from the sky, but I'm also not the predestined person. I like to look at opportunities as they come along and say, okay, this one or this one. I'm working on something really, really cool right now that launches in 2 weeks that came to me from somebody else. And I went, oh, this isn't what we do. And now it's what we do. So it's one of those things that I really believe that I may have put the intention out there, because I do believe in that as well. If I put an intention out to the universe, something's going to manifest if I'm working on it. But it was nothing that I had planned as a kid. My dad had been a business owner, but he was never one to make it work. He'd been just a sole proprietor. And so that's all I had seen. But I knew that's not what I wanted. I wanted a company. I wanted staff. I wanted people who, staff, team members is what we call them. I wanted people who could do the work, but also be fulfilled and be in a culture that they loved, that valued them. And I hadn't seen that before. Not for me, and not in the company I worked.
So I want to go back and visit something that you said, that you were like the teacher's pet, working all these jobs. Like, were you a people pleaser? I don't want to put that in your mouth. You didn't say that. But like, how are you different now? Like, did you have to unlearn a lot of things that you were doing back then in order to become as successful as you are now?
Oh, absolutely. But I moved out when I was 18. So I had lived in Europe as an exchange student from the age of 16, 17. I graduated from high school and I moved out because I was fiercely independent. And the life I led in Europe or in Denmark as an exchange student, you see my Denmark is behind me. I still love that country. But what I learned there changed who I was. It gave me the impetus to realize that people are different all over the world and we can own that. And there's no one right way of doing something. And so it really gave me, it gave me the courage to really go out and be who I am. And I had to unlearn a lot, let me say. I unlearned a lot from my childhood. I grew up very right-wing conservative Christian. And so in my mind, women were meant for two things, being a wife and being a mom. And that was it. And so for me to go out on my own was a huge jump against what I had learned. But for me, I'm a risk taker, and I knew that if I jumped off that building, I would grow wings before I hit the ground. And let me tell you, I have swooped really close to the ground many times.
I mean, and that's what the book is about too, swooping toward the ground and how you grow those wings on the way, like before you hit that ground. So, I mean, unlearning is such a big part, and Whitney and I talk about this all the time in this show. Like, we are constantly unlearning, like constantly the things that not only like corporate drilled into us, but like society drilled into us. Like, we have to be responsive and polite and like all, okay, yeah, we should mainly be polite, but like it's also okay to speak your mind. So it's like this delicate dance that we're doing is like finding who we really are and how we really want to speak. Whitney sent out this awesome email yesterday about like, what did you call it? Like slanglish?
Corplish versus slanglish. Yeah.
Right.
Like, I'm trying my current thing, which I've kind of been investigating. It's another almost female cultured conditioned thing that I was realizing I was holding on to was like, let's say I'm working on a workshop and I talk about it a few times, a few different ways in a few different places. And then I'm like, oh, X amount of people signed up and that's what was meant to be. But I don't want to bother them by talking about it again more times. And a lot of like these coaches of things I consume, they're like, talk about it. You're excited about it. Like, be annoying, talk to people about it. And so I realized like a lot of these coaches, they say the same things a million times. And at a certain point, it clicks for me. They say it in a bunch of different ways. So I was trying to explain in this email of this is how we were trained to write. This is how we need to write in order to attract the people to our businesses who reflect us in the way that we want to be reflected and the dreamy, beautiful people we want to work with. How you communicate, same with you with the visuals, how you present, how you brand matters. It's all part of this whole ecosystem. Mine is very specific to words because I'm obsessed with words. So I was trying to come up with like a term. How can I help them understand this language that we were taught to speak in and write in because we think we have to sound professional. We have to sound polite. We have to write in this way with our heading here and this word and using buzzwords that don't mean anything to anybody that are like corporate word salad. When really what we're trying to do is write like a human, but we don't know how anymore. And so I'm trying to attract those people into my workshop who need to learn how to unwrite their stories in a way that resonates with people and they can see themselves in that. So I came up with these actually as I was writing the email. I was like, what do we speak? Like how do I come up with a term of what this is? And it was corplish. And then I was like, what would I call it if it were just how we want to talk using dad jokes, pop culture puns, and non-AI anything? It would be more like slanglish. Like that was the easiest way for me to kind of put them in a bucket. I just want everybody out there writing their websites using the types of words that they would use in a conversation like this. Like, it's not typing out LOL on your website necessarily. You could. It's more of like, let me write more how I talk and learn to be comfortable with that. And so many people are not, because they're like, I'm a bookkeeper, I must present in this professional way. And I'm just have that in my mind as a person who would be very buttoned up, you would think, but they don't need to be. They can be themselves and they can be successful and bring in the right people to them. And also, to wrap this up, if you are communicating that way, that's who you're bringing in. So you're going to be bringing in these, not that they're necessarily boring, but they might be more boring, stuck up, overly professional. And then you're frustrated because that's not actually how you talk, but you think that you need to on your website. So my goal is to bring more people in like that, who just need to figure out how to loosen the grip a little bit that they don't know they were holding.
So we've trademarked a tagline for the speaker coaching business and some of the work we're doing. It's called connection, not perfection. And so you're looking to connect with your audience. And in
Yes.
order to do that, you have to be authentic. And that's where script whispering comes in. So I will go and help executives as they're rehearsing and create that connection, that bridge to the audience, from them on the stage to that audience, using real content, real words. So a lot of people write a script, or they have a script writer write it, talking about writing, and then they read it and memorize it. First of all, we never memorize speeches. I never train people to do that. Rather, I want them to memorize transitions so they are able to put the real content in between and it sounds like them. But words that look really good on paper don't sound good coming from your mouth sometimes.
Yes, thank you. Keep going.
Yes. And so we help them create that connection by using real words that they would say in everyday life and everyday conversation, because that audience will understand it better. I love what you're doing, Whitney. Super cool.
Oh, thank you. Can you give an example of that? Like what an example transition would be? Because Emily and I are also working on our speaking thing. So I'm super intrigued.
Well, there's a lot of ways to do it, but say you have a really big word somewhere, and I can't pull one out of my head right now, but if you're doing corporate speak or corplish, and I agree, that's a language, let me tell you. And I know varying dialects of it from my clients at Amazon, from my clients at Facebook, from Microsoft, which I call Microsoft Ease. So you really have
They're
to.
acronyms.
Right. You have to figure out what your audience needs and wants before you create anything. And if they want a corporate speak person, that's great. However, you're still not going to connect with people unless you are using real words and terms. Now, the transition thing is we ask people to memorize their transitions between content blocks. So say you have a slide or a video that's talking about Alaska Airlines. I'm just pulling it. So Alaska Airlines, and you're discussing that. And then your next topic is going to be flying. Now, they work together because you've created a flow. It's logical. However, you have to go from talking about Alaska Airlines to the power of flight or something like that. How do you bridge that gap? So you're not going to memorize everything in the content because you want it to sound like it comes from you. So instead of being rote, memorization, you're able to pull things from the audience. You can say, hey, I know you are doing this. You're flying tomorrow. What do you think about this? So it's really having a conversation with an audience versus just spouting out information, because I'll tell you right now, they won't remember it. They will not remember anything unless you connect with them on their level.
Right. Yeah. And I do a lot of that too. I love that because it can be really, even us chatting about how we have such a hard time ending our show. That's like one of those transitions that we can memorize and maybe practice and eventually do better, or not if we don't really care to prioritize it. But with, I do that with when I'm teaching people to write through stories. I want them to tell stories, give us details, fly their freak flags. That's my whole thing that I get really pushy on. All the things that you think people will say that's random, that's boring, that's weird. Write them all down and then see which ones might relate back to something, because people want a nugget that they can hold on to, something that is random and weird, because that makes it memorable. And so what we're doing is very like kind of in parallel. And
Yeah.
I feel like I need the speaker training for sure, because now I'm like getting up there and I'm doing more and I'm working through my impostery stuff, and it's scary, but the relating it back to the you and getting into the audience and even talking to one person is helpful that way as well.
It really is. And so we teach storytelling as well. So just so you know, that is what we do. We help create that audience connection through storytelling. They can't listen to you unless they know you're a real and authentic person. So tell that story, tell it, but start in the middle or the moment of impact and then backtrack. I have 7 opening stories I use for my keynotes, 7 of them. And I just pull them when I need them, because you can connect your story to anything as long as it's authentic.
That's such a good nugget. Like, start at the moment of impact and then create the backstory. Really funny, but kind of related, kind of not. I am, as a 32-year-old woman, watching Star Wars for the first time.
I've never watched Star Wars.
I went to Disneyland. I was like in the Galaxy's Edge place. I was like, this is incredible, whatever. But there's a lot of controversy about whether you start at 4, 5, 6, which were the originals that came out, or 1, 2, 3, which is the backstory. And I think it's really interesting because the moment of impact is like, the 4, 5, 6, and then it created the backstory after that. I started at the beginning because I wanted to know the backstory. And I know this is going to make Star Wars people really pissed, but I don't know that that's my audience in the coast. So like whatever. But like now I kind of wish that I would have started at the moment of impact and not the backstory. So really good point. Weirdly related, nerdy, whatever.
It does relate. It does. But starting at the moment of impact brings somebody in quickly. Do you know what I mean? They pull into the story. You never say once upon a time. You never say, hi, my name's Andrea Heuston and I do speaker coaching. Who cares? So one of my stories starts with, I was mortified. My note cards had fallen all over the floor. You see, the audio system at the venue where I was speaking had completely failed. So I start there and people are like, what happened? What are you embarrassed? That kind of thing. And so pulling them in through that makes you a real person, but it also makes them sit up and listen. When you start with a story and you start at the impact, those phones go away. The laptop screens close. They're listening. And it's hard to capture an audience these days because there's so much noise.
Yep. Emily, you got to do that for your upcoming speech. So I was the keynote speaker at a local wedding group quarterly meeting in January, and I recommended Emily because everybody needs Emily. Everybody needs to delegate more and better. And she's going to give her speech in a few weeks, and she's practicing at the co-working space that I help to manage in the town that I live in. And I'm really excited to see if this changes, because she said this will motivate me to do my speech and practice it. So now I'm going to be really interested to see what story Emily starts with.
Andrea, are you in Renton?
No, I grew up in Renton though. I went to Hazen High School. I grew up in Renton. I live in Snoqualmie.
Okay, so she's local too. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
I figured. Yeah.
I used to coach, assistant coach the cheerleading squad at Hazen High School.
That's random. So funny. That is random.
One of my babies is getting married like this summer, and I'm super excited. Yeah, she invited me to her wedding and stuff, so that's funny. Shout out Hazen High School cheer team. Do you think that starting at the moment of impact is also important when writing a book? Asking for me.
Yes. Start with your opening story. Absolutely. There's nobody wants to hear once upon a time. Nobody wants to hear, I started my business because nobody wants to hear that. They want a story. And then you can fill in the details later. And that's the same with a book. I mean, my very first book is all about stories. It's called Stronger on the Other Side. And I didn't want to write it, but somebody else said, you have to write this. And so I jump in almost immediately to, it says August 14th, 2014 was a blissfully normal day at our beach house on the Washington coast. And then the story goes in to the fact that it burned down that day. And so, I had a house burned down. This is all about my befores and afters and how I got stronger on the other side. I've got 4 of them. I've got the house burning down while my kids were asleep in their beds upstairs and getting them out. I was in a coma for 17 days 15 years ago, and how I got there and what happened. We did massive amounts of infertility treatments before we adopted our children from a drug-addicted birth mother. I mean, there's just a lot. So it's a lot of fun to tell those stories, but it's really impactful for me because it's storytelling, but it also almost gives a lesson. I didn't start out wanting to give lessons, and I don't learn from my life. I've been crazy, but it's a lesson on how to choose your own reaction to anything. So starting with those stories, starting in the heat of it, starting, in the fire, and then telling more about the situation makes people read it too. So it's not just about listening, but it's also about reading. Engage your reader right away or you'll lose them.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I needed to talk to you because I've had a lot of messed up stuff happen in my life too. But like, I've always liked the pain, turn your pain into purpose, and the light enters where the wound is and all that jazz. So
my favorite quote I'm going to share with you, and it's one I use all the time, is she wore her scars as her best attire, a stunning dress made of hellfire. It's pretty impactful, isn't it?
That's a good one. Yeah, that's wow, I have to read that book. I haven't get your books. And maybe you can autograph it for me when we meet in real life.
I can do that. Let's go drink wine somewhere.
Heck yeah, I'm in. If you were speaking to someone who wants to start their own business, become a speaker, what top 2 things are you going to tell them right off the bat?
The top 2 things I tell them off the bat is number 1, gather your tribe. You need, if you're going to start this, you must have a lawyer, a CPA, a banker, a business coach, and that one friend that you can go to and just cry. Okay. You've got to have those 5 people in your life to start a business because you need those people around you. You don't know everything. And remember, you don't know what you don't know. The other thing I would tell them is it's really always better to apologize than to ask for permission. You just need to go do, and you're blazing your own path because the quote that comes up is leaders challenge the process. There are reasons for processes, but you're never going to do something different if you follow them. You've got to create your own.
Which is why I basically failed out of all of my corporate jobs that were very sexy and beautiful, because I was challenging every system, every decision, every way of doing things. And then I was like, why am I in trouble all the time? Like, I'm such a A+ student, and out here in the real world, I'm just always in trouble.
It's okay to be in trouble because you are shaking things up, and you cannot move quickly unless you hit the guardrails once in a while. Yes. You can't, and you can't change unless you're doing that. And those systems and processes, maybe they need to be changed. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So if you want different results, you change the process. You change what's going on.
You're so smart. So wise. I love this.
It comes with experience.
But like, that's why we do this. Like, it's just so affirming to have people like you on here that are like, you're just telling us the things that not only Whitney and I need to hear, but like our whole audience needs to hear all of this. So this is really great. So what are you working on right now? What's exciting for you coming up in your business right now?
Oh man, there is so much right now. But the one thing that we're launching in a couple of weeks is a new online speaker training course. And this one is actually, this one is tailored to fitness professionals because it's backed by 2 huge associations that have 100,000 members combined. And so it's being marketed that way. And it's for continuing education credits as well. And most of them need it. So this has been a massive push. But the next iteration of this course that we've just started is for female leaders. It's for women who are leaders or want to be leaders. And it's really tailored to help them communicate in an impactful way. Women are still raised to not have a voice in a way. I mean, it's just,
Yes.
it's society. So we're going to shake that up. Everybody deserves to have a voice, but damn it, women especially. So that's what we're doing.
I want to do, I'm pushing my cat away right now. That's no, most people will not see this video ever, but in the video, my arm is straight out and I'm trying to push my cat away from me who has a big motor on right now. So I'm like, dude, don't mess up the audio. The one thing that I'm super curious about, because this is my reality, before we get into rapid fires, I am a huge word nerd, book nerd. I have like a reading goal every year because I have so many other things pulling at my time that I make it a point to have a tangible goal, and everybody can do their goals differently, but I need a measurable goal for my books. And so I'm curious for you, as you have multiple arms of your businesses, and as you became an author, was that something that you're like, I'm also going to do this on my own? Because my ultimate goal for a future additional company is to have a publishing house to amplify other people's stories. And I'm curious what that process was like for you. Were you like, I'm going to go out and get a publisher and an agent and all those things? Or were you like, these stories need to be told, I'm going to put them out?
You know, I looked at both ways. Here's the thing. I move fast. I said something about the guardrails earlier because you can't move fast without hitting them once in a while. I didn't want to wait for the publishing process. And because I had owned a second company at one point called Visual Quill that helped authors with the self-publishing process. So I knew what I was doing already. So my first book was completely self-published. The next two, I actually went with a hybrid publishing model because I found this woman who I loved in Vancouver who has a company that does that. And for me, just talking about goals, she made it a goal that I have 5 of these books. She said, you need to write 5 of these. There's enough stories out there to do it. So the 3rd will come out this fall, the 4th next year, and probably the 5th the year after that, just kind of making the plan. I just want to say, I hear you about goals for reading. I have one as well. So I set goals every year for personal, and those are done with my husband. Well, family is done with my husband, for Artitudes, and for Lead Like a Woman. And so they're all goals around what I want to achieve. And for me, it's loose. So I create these goals, but I don't create a plan to get them. So it's kind of like manifesting them, but I know what I'm doing to get there. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's helpful. And we do the same in our house as well. And it's funny looking at my husband's goals, and he loves to do it. And he looks back on them. And it's kind of the same where it's a little bit manifesty, where we write them all down and then put the notebook away and revisit it maybe once in the year between. We're talking about maybe revisiting it more, but realistically, with 2 young kids, it's not always high on our list. And so he'll look at them and he's like, oh my God, I checked off almost all of my goals. Like his success rate is 90+% across categories. And he's always so proud of himself because he's like, that was like a stretch goal. And then he achieves it and he's so proud.
But that's what you want. I mean, that's what you want. You want those goals to be in your head. So as a company, we create SMART goals. So we really look at the goals and how to get there, and we do them quarterly. That's just not my style. I'm not organized. If you know the EOS model, which is entrepreneurial operating system, which is great, I am not the integrator. That's not me. I am the strategy. I am the higher picture. I'm up here. I'm never in the weeds. And if I get in the weeds, all the details get missed. So for me, setting goals for myself, my family, with my husband, it's really about that higher level. Where do we want to be next year at this time? Whether it's putting another $25,000 in stocks, or it's taking 2 family vacations a year with children who are not children anymore. So my boys are now 21, almost 22, and 18. So, you've just got to look at things a little differently. You have to fit it to who you are. I am not the person anymore who wants to put that square peg in a round hole. That's not. I honor who I am and what I'm good at, and I understand what I'm not great at. And so I hire for that, or I let other people do it.
So true. Individualized everything. and noticing too, like when you're bucking up against resistance, like when you should yourself and you're like, I should be setting goals this way. This is what CEOs do. And then you don't ever do it because you can't, you keep resisting the process. Maybe the process isn't for you. And that's always why I bucked out of systems that didn't fit me. So I hear that, and it's super validating to hear. Like, we all need to hear that every single day. Like, does this work for you? And especially as business owners and humans.
I'm done trying to be something I'm not. I don't need it.
Same.
I don't need
Yeah.
it in my life. And one of my mantras this year that I started early in the year is none of my business what other people think of me. Because really, I can't control their thoughts. And nor do I really care what they think of me as long as I'm happy with myself.
Or as the great Taylor Swift said, I'm damned if I do give a damn what people say.
That's right. I like that one
Yes.
too.
Or the great Miley Cyrus, I can buy myself flowers.
Absolutely.
It's kind of related.
Yep.
All right. Let's do some rapid fires. What are you proudest of in your business right now?
Oh, this is a hard one. And I'm actually proudest of the fact that we have longevity. I'm proudest that we've lost nobody over the past few years. And damn it, I'm proud that we've made it through COVID. We're not back to where we were yet because we were in the live events industry. So pivoting and really moving into something else, I'm proud that we're still here.
Yeah, that's major. The longevity part too. I mean, what is the stat that like most businesses fail within the first year and definitely within the 5?
Yeah.
Like these huge percentages. So we should all be congratulating ourselves, but especially you.
Yes.
Tell us about a book you read or podcast you listened to recently that changed the way you're thinking about your life or your business.
Oh, holy cow. That's deep. So I'm into true crime. I know that's really funny, but I do not listen to business podcasts anymore. I used to. I thought, I got to absorb everything all the time. I don't. So I listen to true crime podcasts. And I don't know if it's changed my business in any way, but it does change the way I think about things. Because what happens is you're getting into the minds of other people. And it's a gift to be able to do that. It's a gift to be observant. And so it's really created more observance in my life. And it's upping my listening skills. So I'm trying really hard this year to sit and listen and not listen to respond. So I just want to take it in.
That's so hard. Listening, like actively listening is so freaking hard. It's like, we can all, it's so hard.
Especially if you're not like, that's not your primary way of learning. Like listening isn't, unless I'm super engaged, I'm so much more visual that it takes a lot more focus for me to listen to things and glean the information and absorb it and put it in the highest part of the pyramid and all that, synthesize.
Yes.
But that's a great tip. What would your last meal be? These are all very deep.
What would my last meal be? Oh my God, I love food and I love cooking food. But I think honestly, my last meal would probably be pizza, but not any pizza. I don't love American pizza. It would be Napoli pizza. So from Naples with the super thin crust and very few toppings, but every topping counts. I love a good pizza with red wine. Mm-hmm. That would be my last meal.
So good.
I'm making pizza tonight. Maybe that's what's on my mind.
And also, I think you're the first person to ever say pizza. If my husband was on the podcast, I think he'd say pizza. But I don't think anybody said pizza.
I don't think so either.
Well, but I don't want delivery pizza. I don't want the crap we have in the US. Sorry. I want the really strict Italian pizza where they use San Marzano tomatoes because they're not allowed to use anything else, where the crust is made daily. It's one of those things that is just perfection. And as hard as we try everywhere else, we don't nail it.
Yeah. No, it's important, these details, as we've discussed. I have this whole Instagram post about like, if you tell me on your website that you love tacos, like, you're tacky and I hate you. Not really. Like, that is like bombastic of me to say, but like, that's hyperbole. But basically, do not just tell me about taco in general. I need to know the inside of the tacos. I need to know some sort of detail and story around the tacos. That's why the clarification about the pizza is important, because there's so many directions you can take pizza. Same with, like, the specific wine. We want to know that and see ourselves in that, even if it's not what pizza we would choose. But, like, to be fair, I would choose that pizza as well. It's about like, I see myself in that detail. I can relate to her that she cares to give me that level of detail. It's so much more than just saying that kind of pizza tells us the whole story.
Well, the other thing, I'm going to tell you one more thing then, real quick. I know it's rapid fired, but the wine is a Col Solare red blend from 2005. It is deep. It's delicious. It's a local partnership between St. Michelle Winery, one of my clients, and Antinori, which is one of their Italian subsidiaries. And it is brilliant. It's super drinkable, super affordable, but it's got this really depth, or this good depth to it that goes really well with a Napoli style pizza.
See, I'm buying what you're selling. I'm asking for a seat at the table. You tell me pizza and wine, I'm like, eh.
Eh.
You tell me those things, and I'm like, how much is my ticket to this table? When should I be there? What can I bring?
I'm feeling so just like I thought I would. I gave up grocery store wine like in the past 5 years. Like I've started buying winery wine, etc. But like I still feel very uncultured because the oldest wine that I've ever had is like 2016. I'm like, I want a 2005. I want to like I need to up my game again.
Yeah, you need library wines, which requires higher membership to those wineries.
Okay, I'm in.
All right.
I have a feeling you will have an answer very quickly to this question. A lot of people struggle with it. So I don't want to set you up, but what is the best business purchase you've made in the last 6 months under $100?
Ooh, the best business purchase I have made under $100. I would say it was a membership to the online training company that we're using, the LMS, the learning management system. I researched, and my team researched a bunch of them until we bought this one, and it is amazing. So under $100 a month or close to it.
Huh. That counts. And we
It
always tell
counts.
people too, you're a business owner, you can break the rules. This is your question. So
Leaders challenge the process every
yes,
time.
exactly. And then our last question, which we kind of asked earlier, but you can put it under the umbrella of all up. What is lighting you up lately?
Oh man, there's so much that lights me up. Everything does. Now, I am an optimist. Some people, it drives them crazy, but after you've been through so much crap in your life, you get to choose how you respond. So everything lights me up. I have a gratitude journal and I write things down every single day. And it could be simple. It could be the taste of a fresh strawberry. This morning, I put down a puzzle that I'm working on because, and it's not just because I'm working on a puzzle, because when I work on a puzzle, I am singularly focused on that task and my brain doesn't go to everything else I have to do. So it's a brain break.
That is so true. And I'm a big gratitude person as well. And I also don't really care. That's another thing that my current like life mantra is like bless and release. So it's like cool that you're sharing this information with me. Like, I bless it and I release it. What am I going to carry with me? Not that, not your opinion of whether you think I'm cringe, because I'm always gratitude-y. I would much rather be this and grateful and enjoying my life. Like, I had a client meeting yesterday. I live in Edmonds, they changed it from East Lake to Madison Park. And usually I would be kind of stressed about having to drive all the way through Seattle and last minute changes. And I was like, I'm pretty into my angels lately too. So I'm like, angels, like, let's go. Let's get to Madison Park, clear the traffic. It's going to be great. And I was so grateful because I drove around the back of the Arboretum to get there, which I love driving around the back of the Arboretum. And I was just like, the sun was shining. It was very weird weather like it has been, but like in between like a downpour and the sun, where it's kind of this beautiful, otherworldly moment and all the flowering trees. I stopped by a little library because I was early, and I was like, I am so fucking grateful that this is my life and my day right now. That like a client meeting is meeting at Cactus in Madison Park at 2:30 on a Monday. That this gets to be my life, and that I get to stop at the little library just because I feel like it. And I don't care if people think that's cheesy, because what they think of me has no impact on me. So I continue to share all that stuff too, because I'm like, this is expansive for me, and it's taken so long to break out of what I thought I should do and what success looks like into what success looks like for me. So I validate and champion that for you as well. The fresh strawberry, the puzzle, the like small things that at least I never gave myself permission to do, or thought like it's cheesy to linger on this. Like, who cares if you're cheesy?
It's right. It's not cheesy, because you know what? Having gratitude for small things makes it a lot easier to have gratitude for the big things. So I can say I'm grateful for my health because I haven't had it a few times. Great. What does that mean? Rather, I'd say I am so grateful and so happy that I get to walk in the mornings with my dog outside in the pouring rain sometimes, because I get to feel and be and do, and I'm still here above ground.
Yeah, big facts. And again, all the details. I'm like turned on almost.
She's a storyteller.
Yeah.
I do love stories.
Andrea, it was so lovely to get to know you today. It's been a long time coming.
This has been so fun to get to know both of you. What a great thing you're doing here with the Coast Podcast. I can't wait to spread the word.
Thank you. We're so excited to have you on, and thank you for being here. And thank you for sharing your message and helping us share, your message with all of the potential entrepreneurs and all of the entrepreneurs and anybody who needs to learn how to tell a better story.
Absolutely.
Yes. Better stories. I will die on that sword. Die on that hill.
Me too. One thing, if you want to find me, I am #lead like a woman. All right. So I'll probably be about the third entry. #lead like a woman, or I am all over LinkedIn, and it's Andrea Heuston. So yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect. What about your websites?
Oh, there's a lot of them. So I have AndreaHeuston.com, I have leadlikeawoman.biz, and I have Artitudes.com. So you can find me at any of those. The AndreaHeuston.com goes to all the other websites. That's kind of the hub. Yeah.
We'll link them in the show notes as well, and link your LinkedIn and everything. So
thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for listening to another episode of The Coast. Whitney already said that. I'm going to say it again. And we will see you next time.
Excellent. Excellent job, Emily.
Oh, thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of The Coast. This episode edited by Kay Shu.
And music by Sloan Best. If you love this episode, give us a rating wherever you consume your podcast. Until soon.
Bye.
Bye.